I don't want to cut down trees, guys. I'm not a tree killer. I am not a tree killer. I love trees. But there are some things that you got to do in your forest to keep it managed, to keep it maintained. And we're going to have a little talk today about some of the reasons why. So stay tuned. Let's go do some forestry management, guys. We got to take care of our forest. There's a lot of dead wood in here. There's a lot of diseased trees. There's a lot of dead trees. And we need to start thinning it out over the next few years in order to properly maintain the life cycle of all of these trees in the forest. We have our own personal wilderness here in Canada. We're in Horseshoe Valley, Ontario, and we're right on the mountain here. And this is where most of our forest is, right on the mountain. So we're going to be doing some mountain logging today. How you doing, guys? Chad here at the Hidden Spring Farm, and we're in our 15 acres of hardwood forest. And I wanted to talk a little bit today about forest management. For those of you who don't know, forest management is exactly what it's titled, to manage your forest. What the purpose of, oh, here's Molly. Some of the aspects about forest management are to remove diseased trees, clean up fallen trees, remove trees that don't look healthy, trees that you think might not survive, trees that have already started to rot, any tree that has like woodpecker damage. And there's a few different purposes for managing your forest. Now, us at our farm here, been approached several times by people, you know, like consultant companies, timber companies that want to come in and clean up our forest, and they'll pay me a lot of money for some of the hardwood that's in here. But I'm not really interested in doing that, so I always turn them away. But I am fully aware that this forest needs help. Serious help, guys. There's far too many trees that don't look good. There's a lot of rotten trees that have fallen down. They need to be cleaned up, and you want to do that in order to maintain the floor area of your forest. It'll also help you prevent or easily fight forest fires, just in case you ever get a forest fire. Now, I'm really not looking to cut down trees just for the sake of cutting down trees. I don't need to cut down trees. I don't want to cut down trees, but this forest that we have on our farm here hasn't been maintained probably for decades, and decades, and there's an awful lot of suffering trees. And what that does is it hurts all of the healthy trees. The canopy's covered too much, so it doesn't allow enough sunlight down to the floor area of the forest. The tiny trees that are growing right beside the good, big, healthy trees, they're sucking out a lot of the water and they're sucking out a lot of the nutrients from the soil, which is leaving less nutrients and less water for that big, healthy tree. Now, there's a lot of things that you can do in your forest immediately to alleviate some of these issues. If you take a look at this tree right here in front of me, and you look way up to the top there, you'll see it's basically broken off at the top. The whole tree, the bark is starting to rot off, and it just needs to be cut. I'm not even certain if it's good enough for firewood at this point. Look at that tree right there. That's like a widowmaker. You walk underneath that tree's coming down anytime, and it can knock you in the head. That's why they call those widowmakers. But that's an example of a tree that's hurting. It just needs to be cut and removed. When I look around here, there's like thousands of trees that need to be removed. It's all for the sake of the forest. Now here's an example of a tree. It's already losing its bark, so it's already rotting and deteriorating. It has woodpecker damage up there, and if you look closely, it's hollow. It's already starting to be hollow in there. Look at that one. Something's already burrowing a hole in there. It's all just rotten. Look at it. That needs to come down. Now we have a whole lot of sugar maples here in our forest, and I do plan on developing a section of the forest for harvesting sap from these sugar maples to get into producing some small batch maple syrup. Now, in order to do that, I need to create trails in the woods, and that's more of a few years ongoing project to get done. But that being said, you're not going to start cutting down trees that are healthy, trees that are big and thick and that'll give you lots of sap. You want to clean up all the trees and brush that are around those beautiful sugar maples to give yourself a proper trail through the woods and make a system there that you can develop to harvest the sap easily and efficiently. Here's a really solid tree right here, real solid. It's very tall all the way up there. It has a nice canopy up top. I don't see any damage in the bark, and this is an example of a tree that you want to keep. Right beside it, there's a tree that's not looking good at all. The canopy has been cut off, and I can almost push this one over. Almost. Almost. Whoa. You gotta watch it. You don't want any of the twigs to fall. Now guys, there is a clear difference between wildlife management and forest management, so you don't want to confuse the two. What we're trying to accomplish here in our forest, very little to do with wildlife, although wildlife does impact your forest management plan. Because, you know, for example, if there's some wildlife that like to eat acorns, for example, and you have a lot of oak trees, whether white oak or red oak, they drop their acorns, and it provides food for certain wildlife that will feed on that. Now, if you manage and cut down some of the rotten trees that are around a beautiful oak tree, then that oak tree is going to be healthier and stronger, and it will actually produce more acorns for the wildlife in the immediate area. So that's a great thing. As we go up the mountain here, I see hundreds of trees that are good, healthy, strong trees. But they won't be strong and healthy for much longer if I don't intervene. This is something that's truly required in your forest to keep the forest thriving and strong and healthy. I want to have a bunch of hardwood here for decades and decades to come, not only for the next few years. See, I can just push that over with my hands. It's a tree. It's about this big around, but it's not healthy. It's not helping this tree and this tree and this tree. They're all being negatively affected by this rotten tree. As its life slowly comes to an end, it's still drawing nutrients from these other trees. Now, when you're deciding what trees you want to keep in your forest, this is an example of a tree that has much lesser value to the timber guys, you know, because the crown has been split and the nutrients of the tree have been divided. Now, this tree looks to be somewhat healthy, but look at this trunk right here. It's way on an angle, and it has a much higher likelihood to fall in that direction. But this is not a tree that would be harvested by somebody who's looking for some good hardwood. So this tree right here is a really good example of a tree that I'm going to take down right now. It's got so much rodent and bird and woodpecker damage. When I look up to the top, it doesn't even have a canopy. So let me take this sucker down. I may be able to still harvest some of this tree for some firewood, but some of it is going to be too rotten, I know. As we go further up the mountain here, there's a bunch of tiny trees, thin trees, diseased trees right over here. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all in one spot. And they're gonna have to get cut. I might as well do it right now. I'm right here. Yeah! Yeah! That was a good drop. Pretty much threaded the needle down here. Yeah! That tree's gonna be rotten soon. Take a look. I'll show you here. All of the bark looks solid here. But as you go this way, look at it. It's not looking in very good shape at all. Very unhealthy. The whole thing snapped down here as it fell. The whole thing snapped. Look at it. It's all just dried up wood. I may still be able to use some of it as firewood though. I'll have to just get, you know, bucking it up a little and see what I can get out of it. I always keep Molly and the mule here whenever I'm doing any kind of timbering or logging type work, chainsaw work, because when the trees fall, you never know where Molly's gonna be. She doesn't know that the tree's fallen. I don't want her to get crushed or stabbed by a branch or something. Hey, hey. She's the best. Well, the good news, after bucking up some of them trees, it turns out I'll be able to keep some of it for firewood. When I came back to the barnyard, all the cats just were so curious about what's all this stuff that this guy just brought back. There's all these logs here. They're so cute. If you like the video, don't forget to hit that like button for me, please. And if you want to hear the story of how our forest ends up, click that subscribe button, would you please? Thanks so much for watching. You guys take care, okay?